The Age of Enlightenment was a grand time in Europe. A whole bunch of ideas were thrown around regarding life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Political and economic philosophers and their theories came to light that are still in practice today, such as Adam Smith's laissez-faire construct, which shaped capitalism, and Montesquieu's The Separation of Powers, which we borrowed for our Constitution. Among the rabble-rousers was a Swiss-born troublemaker, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, whose works, Discourse on the Arts and Sciences, Discourse on the Origin and Basis of Inequality Among Men, The Social Contract, and Emile pissed off a lot of people to the point that there were book burnings and calls for his arrest. In Rousseau's Discourse on the Origin and Basis of Inequality Among Men, he attacks a few concepts regarding the state of nature made by Thomas Hobbes, a pessimistic so-and-so political philosopher whose book, Leviathan, set the stage for the social contract theory. If you remember from the René Descartes lecture, there were two camps of philosophy battling it out during the Age of Enlightenment in Europe: the empiricists and the rationalists. In the rationalist camp stands its father, Descartes, and Gottfried Leibniz, Immanuel Kant, and Baruch Spinoza, who we will be covering later in the semester. In the empiricists' camp stands its father, Francis Bacon, Hobbes, David Hume, and John Locke. We can rightly assume that Rousseau was a rationalist of sorts, since he disagreed with much of Hobbes' thoughts on morals and man in relation to the importance of government, even though Rousseau is not identified as a rationalist. In fact, he spends a good deal of time in discourse refuting the sour-faced Hobbes. Let's take a look at natural man, stripped of all evolutionary improvements. Rousseau says, let's not get into what natural man looked like, whether he was hairy all over or walked on all fours. I shall not follow his organization through its successive developments, nor shall I stay to inquire what his animal system must have been at the beginning in order to become at length what it actually is. I shall not ask whether his long nails were at first, as Aristotle supposes, only crooked talons, whether his whole body, like that of a bear, was not covered with hair, or whether the fact that he walked upon all fours, with his looks directed toward the earth, confined to a horizon of a few paces, did not at once point out the nature and limits of his ideas. For the sake of conversation, says Rousseau, let's assume natural man is like the way we are now. I shall suppose his conformation to have been at all times what it appears to us at this day, that he always walked on two legs, made use of his hands as we do, directed his looks over all nature, and measured with his eyes the vast expanse of heaven. Natural man was pure and uncorrupted, and his needs were simple, satisfying his thirst, hunger, and need for sleep. I see him satisfying his hunger at the first oak, and slaking his thirst at the first brook, finding his bed at the foot of the tree which afforded him a repast, and, with that, all his wants supplied. Anything he learned in order to survive, he learned from watching animals, including the development of his instincts. Living among the animals has sharpened his defensive skills. Once this man mated and had offspring, the offspring benefited from the strong constitution of the parents. Natural selection wiped out the weak and took care of the strong that adapted quickly. Nature, in this case, treats them exactly as Sparta treated the children of her citizens. Those who come well formed into the world she renders strong and robust, and all the rest she destroys, differing in this respect from our modern communities, in which the state, by making children a burden to their parents, kills them indiscriminately before they are born.